and this is interpreting functions. All right, so first, we're going to look at a graph here. All right, so a few things you want to be able to identify with a graph. First thing is the title. Every graph should have a title, and that will be right at the top like that. Next, make sure you know what your y and your x axes are. Okay, this is your y-axis right here. All right, and it's labeled temperature in degrees Celsius. So again, pay attention to that. Your x-axis is always going to be at the bottom, obviously. And again, look at what the label it is so you can understand what the graph is telling you, and that's time in minutes. So if you look at this, the graph is telling us about cooling a hot drink using ice. The y-axis is the temperature of the drink in degrees Celsius, and the x-axis is the time elapsed. So if I asked you a question like, what's the relationship between time and temperature? Well, you can look at the graph and notice it has kind of this downward trend here. So the more time that passes, the cooler the drink gets. So as time passes, the drink's temperature cools. Pretty simple stuff. So let's practice the problem on your own. All right, what does point E represent on the graph? Well, point E, there's E right there, and the actual point, let's make this so you can see it. The actual point is right there, just in case you couldn't see it. Okay? And so from E, which is right here, it goes down. Point E represents that at 0 minutes, because if you look, here's 0 minutes, the drink was 60 degrees Celsius. So again, pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, now what does point A represent? Well, point A, there's the A right there, but the actual point, again, is right there. And it goes down to 20. So after 20 minutes, the temperature of the drink is 28 degrees Celsius. So again, all you're doing is reading the graph. That's all you have to do here. All right, so let's take a look at an example here. Say, what was the temperature of the drink after 5 minutes? So we've got to look at our x and y axes. Okay, at 5 minutes, which is right here, that's 5 right there. If you go up, you'll see point D. Okay, and you need to find out the temperature of the drink at 5 minutes. So all you have to do is go over to, okay, so first you go down and see where the 5 minutes is, and then you go over to here, and it's at about 46 degrees Celsius. So after 5 minutes, temperature of the drink is 46 degrees Celsius. Again, a fairly straightforward one, but you've got to make sure that you're reading the graph correctly. Okay, another example. How many degrees did the drink cool between C and B? Okay, so they listed it in order of C and B, so that's the order you have to follow here. So here's C, and there's B. So at C, the drink was, well, if you look over there, we're at about 34 degrees Celsius. Okay, so then you go to B, and same thing, look over to where it is, and it's about 30 degrees Celsius. So at C, it was 34, at B, it was 30. So how many degrees did the drink cool by? All you have to do is subtract these two here. 34 minus 30 is 4 degrees. So the drink cooled 4 degrees between point C and point B. Next example. Again, pay attention to the graph. What are we being asked here? Okay, here's our title. So that tells us this graph is about customers who switched from AT&T to MCI. Okay, your y-axis tells us the millions of people who switched. Okay, so notice that says millions of people who switched. So it's not, you've got 2, 3, 4, 5. This isn't 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. This is 2 million people, 8 million people. And this x-axis represents the year that the data was taken. So we only have data for 1993, 94, 95, and 96. So, in other words, what's the relationship between years and millions switching companies? Well, if you look, as time passes, more people switch from AT&T to MCI. So again, just a matter of reading the graph. Let's look at example 4. What does point C represent on the graph? Well, point C is right here. And if you go down, we're talking about the year 1995. Okay, so in 1995, you look over to the left on your y-axis. So you always start off with your input, the 1995. The output is, so in 1995, you go over and you see you're at 6, which again is 6 million people. 6 million people switched from AT&T to MCI. Okay, so what does point D represent on the graph? Try this one on your own. So pause it here, take a look, see if you can figure it out. Now, if you did, okay, there's point D, goes down to 96. So in 1996, 7 million people switched from AT&T to MCI. Okay, one last example. What percent of young adults attain a college degree in Canada? Now ignore this line here. For whatever reason, I couldn't get rid of it. So now young adults, you've got to, and this is again, you've got to make sure that you are reading this carefully. Young adults is the lighter of the lines, okay? So that's right there, because here's your light one, here's your dark one. Adults are the darker ones. So young adults ends right here. And we want to know what percent of young adults attain a college degree in Canada. So if you go down, you'll see your halfway would be about right here. Halfway would be about right here. So we're going to say about 57%. You could say 56 and make a case for that too if you wanted to, but just say about 57%. So even though your graph is kind of a bar graph going a different direction, make sure that you understand how to read it. Okay, some tips. Make sure you're looking at your graphs carefully. Okay, read the title, read everything involved with it. And next, make sure you read and then reread the problems so that you are 100% sure of what you're being asked. Okay, make sure you are answering the question that is being asked. That's what that boils down to. All right, have a good one.